Welcome back to the Serving My Master podcast. Thank you for joining me today. In our previous episodes, we have started going through the commandments, the mitzvahs given to us in the Torah, showing us what it really means to be a servant to the master of the world, giving us an idea both through the history that we lived and the mitzvahs that we were given, that every detail in our life is put forth in a way to give us an opportunity to serve the master of the world. We won't be going through in detail every single one of the mitzvahs esse and the mitzvahs lois esse, the positive and negative commandments given to us in the Torah, because the idea of this podcast is to give us a better vision, to give us a new perspective, to enable us to put on the glasses of a servant, to enable us to have the vision that in any given moment, the only question we have to ask, as previously mentioned, is as a servant, what am I supposed to do? What am I obligated to do? What is the opportunity given to me in this moment to serve the master of the world? And with that, to fulfill my mission in this world. And with that, to fulfill the ultimate purpose of the world itself. However, before we continue on to the next path that I want to take with this podcast, I do want to go through two more of the mitzvahs given to us in the Torah on Sinai. And the first one is the mitzvahs, the laws and the bylaws given to us in great detail about the Eved Ivri, a Jewish servant. This is an incredible idea that really shows us two sides of the same coin. We see the Torah tells us in the first place, this is not an idea that I like. Hashem says, as Chazal tell us, Avodai heim v'lo avodim la'avodim. Klal Yisrael are my servants. Each and every one of you is my servant with the opportunity to reach the highest level of service, just as Moshe Rabbeinu did. And therefore, I am not pleased if a human being will now become a human master to a Eved Ivri, to one of my servants. However, on the other side of the coin, we see incredible detail how if and when this happens, how it should be put forth and how it should be put into action. This is something that, first of all, shows us again the incredible detail of service and of how our service needs to look like in any position that we find ourselves in. But it's also something that can give us clarity on something that unfortunately today many have questions about. And this is the idea of slavery. We all know the terrible evil of slavery, the history of slavery, and many find themselves in a situation where they're trying to connect the dots. How do I connect the service shown to us in the Torah as an Eved Ivri and an Amma Ivriya and the history of slavery that we know in Western society? This is something that as soon as one takes on these perspectives and ideas becomes very clear. The idea of slavery in Western society very clearly was an idea where human beings decided that they themselves were masters and they were servants to none. They were masters over other human beings. They were in control of the lives of other human beings. And with that came incredible evil. Because as soon as one takes on the position of being a master and not a servant to the master of the world, with that can only come evil. Because it's the opposite of the purpose of human beings in this world. And when someone goes against the purpose of the world, when someone goes against the purpose of why we are here in this world, the only path is pure evil. And when these people decided that they were masters over other humans, incredible evil came out of that. But what the Torah is talking about is something else completely. The Torah tells us in the first place, this is not something I like because you might think for 1 second that you are a master over one of my servants. But remember, this is not the case. Every single one in Klal Yisrael is my servant, not anyone else's. However, if one finds themselves in a position where they are indeed a Eved Ivri or Oma Ivriya, or they become the human master of Eved Ivri and Oma Ivriya, there's incredible detail of how one must approach this situation. Chazal tell us that when a person buys a Eved Ivri or Oma Ivriya, what they really bought was a new master, because of the incredible obligations that come with doing such an action. The master now has incredible obligations of taking care of his new servant, of feeding his new servant, of making sure that the new servant's family is taken care of. So much so, the master is not even allowed to make this new servant work too hard. If he doesn't have enough food, the servant comes first. Incredible obligations that come to the human master. If he even owns temporarily a Jewish servant. And the same way the other way around. The Eved Ivri or the Oma Ivriya, they don't have to serve their human master because it seems right, or because of a deal, or because they were put in that situation for whatever reason. Absolutely not. They are supposed to serve their human master because they are obligated to do so. In the Torah itself, they were told, you need to serve your human master if you were put in that situation. But that service is also only because, since you're obligated to do so, this will be in service of the master of the world, as you will be following the obligations, the commitments, the commandments given to you in the Torah, in the guide that Hashem has given us. Showing us again that even things that seem to be something that are irrelevant to the Torah, I would think that as a servant to a human master, I am obligated by some type of human logic to serve my human master. The Torah tells us no. The only reason you would be obligated to serve your human master is because the Torah tells you to do so. And therefore that today is your service to the master of the world. Whilst at the same time the Torah will be obligating your master to take care of you and your family. This is an opposing idea that we will be returning to probably many times in this podcast, showing us how the Torah on one hand obligates the human master to take care of his servant, not to make his servant work too hard, and so forth. And on the other hand, telling the human servant, you need to take care of your human master. You need to serve him as much as you can. An idea that can only make sense when one understands that we do nothing in this world because we understand the logic or the morals behind it. We only do things in this world because the Torah obligates us to do so, and if and when we fulfill those obligations, we will know with certainty that we're doing what we're supposed to do in this world, that we are fulfilling the purpose of this world. And of course, with that, reach the ultimate happiness and reach the ultimate goal of fulfilling our mission in this world. This idea will take us forth and forward on this path that we're walking on, and will show us how incredibly every detail in our life is in service of the Master of the world. Thank you for joining me today. I look forward to continuing this discussion with you. Thank you and have a wonderful